Pitch invasions. One massive problem in UK football right now. Fans taking part, clubs becoming victims. This isn't the game I know. So this is why we have set up our campaign, Keep It in the Stands. Our aim is to educate fans, but also help clubs stop them happening so we can keep this beautiful game going. Did you know, in the Football Offences Act of 1991, if a fan enters the pitch, they could be fined, arrested, or even given a stadium ban? Is it really worth it? When you enter the field to play, you put everyone's health and safety at risk. The players, the staff, even yourselves. If you get caught, you're going to lose your job. Here at Keep It in the Stands, we're a student-based campaign team dedicated to stopping these pitch invasions happening. As the FA have once said, the stands is for everyone to enjoy, but the pitch is for player and staff to leave it that way. So our proposal to the EFL is to increase the number of security and stewards we have inside the stadium, and with that increased number, we need to improve the training that they get. When inside the stadium, they need to have improved fencing or barriers to stop fans entering the pitch of play. We think that the EFL need to increase the amount of CCTV used around stadiums. In addition, they need to increase the ban that the offenders are given. Also, increase the fines. But it just doesn't come all down to the fans. We also think the clubs need to take responsibility. This is why we're proposing clubs be handed point deductions, fines, and also, if it even gets this bad, even games behind closed doors. So, are you asking, why do we think this will work? Just because the EFL has interviewed managers, directors, players, all from the EFL. And from this information, we've came up with the best and what we think would be the most realistic way to stop pitch invasions happening. Our colleagues, Charlie and Theo, spoke to the director of Grimsby Town, Christine Green, to see what she's got to say about the current situation.
Christina, I just want to take you back to May 2022, a significant moment in Grimsby Town's history. Grimsby won promotion back to the EFL after a thrilling playoff. After the match, Grimsby fans ran onto the pitch. However, they were showing good behaviour and there weren't any bad behaviour happening. Obviously, there are two types of pitch invasions. There's hostile and happy ones. Do you think the happy ones should be allowed, or are all pitch invasions bad?
I think it's very difficult when you're a steward working a game to distinguish between the two. So for me, I think that there's a balance. So actually, the law is any pitch encroachment could incur a fine. So I'm very much in the case of everybody knows that the pitch is for players and officials, and if we stay off it, then I think the difference is the sanctions. If you know it's people going on because you've been promoted, it's a little bit different so that you won't necessarily get sanctioned. But no, I think it needs to stay as it is. You can't in that moment differentiate to go, oh, you look happy, so you can stay on the pitch. So I'm very much in the case of stay out the law as is.
How does the club work with law enforcement to maintain safety between the players and fans?
So I work really, really closely. So I don't know if you know the terminology around sort of policing football. So we've got what's called a DFO, which is a dedicated football officer, and he will follow us. He's at every game, home and away, and he gets a bit of a rapport with people. And I do the same in my job as part of the football club. So I'm also the supporters liaison officer. So it's my role to build up relationships with people where I can tell because I sit in the pontoon where a lot of the noise and the pitch encroachments tend to come from. I can see when things are happening, and I will just go up to someone and go, look, I can see what you're thinking of doing. This is what's going to happen. So we work quite closely and we'll talk to each other about different things and what we can do to prevent it rather than deal with it later on. So when we got promoted back in 2021, we ended up with a few pitch encroachments. And we, instead of banning kids, got them in and said, well, actually, if you go through the court system, you're on an apprenticeship now. You're going to lose that apprenticeship because you will have a 3-year ban and a criminal record. So we're trying to do rather than just banning kids because I don't like doing it. I get why they do it. I wouldn't do it. My kids don't do it. So it's about making them realise that it impacts you more beyond the football pitch. So we do that in conjunction with the police rather than put them through the court system as well.
Yeah, how do you feel about the current security measures at stadiums in the EFL? Do you think enough's being done or could more be done?
We have what's called a serial of police officers, so that's one sergeant and 6 officers. That costs between £5,000 and £8,000 every home game. And it costs more if you don't have them in and you then call them in. It can cost up to £10,000. So you try and work with the police to build that relationship and have a good stewarding team. But a good stewarding team isn't just about safety; it's about friendliness and engagement. So yeah, it's a really hard balancing act between keeping people safe and people enjoying what they do.
What measurements would you like to see clubs implementing to prevent pitch invasions?
For me, it's about prevention. So most clubs know their fan base and they know where that potential to pitch encroach happens. So we do a lot of preventative stuff, get players involved, actually get fans to understand it impacts on you guys. If you're on apprenticeships, college, careers, it impacts on us as a football club because we're then going to have that. The police have a system that tracks behaviour and everybody can see it. And if you've got a list of behaviour where you're constantly having pitch encroachments, you're going to be stewarded to within an inch of your life. So your enjoyment at a football game is going to be to a detriment.
Our colleagues, Alex and Louis, interviewed Salford City manager Carl Robertson to see what he had to say about this.
Obviously, you train and set up tactics throughout the week to build up for games at the weekend, and all it takes is a fan or fans to run on the pitch and cause havoc, and then all of a sudden, worst case, a game is abandoned. So, how does pitch invasions affect your job?
I don't ever think it's something you really take into consideration when you build up to a game. You'd imagine if something goes wrong and you end up losing the game, you will say it's because of the stoppages that occur within it. But I keep saying I don't think it has a great deal of involvement with results. I really don't. I think it's just a case of players need to be seen as being safe.
Obviously, talking about player safety, then what are the primary concerns for players and staff safety when a pitch invasion happens?
Well, listen, I'll be honest with you. I think the way fans don't get checked before they go into games, people say they do, but I go to watch games as a scout or as a manager in this game. You don't get searched. It never happens. Sure, you've been the same. No one checks for any metal. No one checks for anything. So if you think that if somebody's going in with an intent to hurt somebody, how can they stop it? Because the reaction of the stewards, and some of the stewards don't even watch. Like, they need to be more attentive to what goes on. But even if they are attentive, if someone decides to run, by the time your reaction time gets to it, you could have something that is does hit the back pages and the front pages if it's an idiot.
How do you feel about the current security measures? Obviously, like you've just been saying, at stadiums to prevent incidents.
They're not great. They're not great. As I went to watch Liverpool play Chelsea last year in the Carabao Cup final, it was a mess. It was a mess. And that's the pinnacle of the EFL's biggest game, which is the Carabao Cup final. And it was like people were bunking in, there was trouble outside, they were just opening gates. So it wasn't, I think the security needs to be better. I think you've got to have a stronger control on the people that you let into our venues.
I spoke to Ipswich Town youth player Stephen Turner to find what he thinks as a player who's been involved on the pitch.
To start off with, have you ever experienced a pitch invasion as a player?
I've never experienced a pitch invasion whilst being on the pitch. Only being in the stands when Ipswich got promoted. If it is sort of fueled with anger and stuff like that from the fans, then maybe more needs to be done in terms of getting both players off the pitch or delaying people getting on the pitch.
So what measures do you think we could put in place to try and stop this from happening all the time?
No matter how many stewards there are, if it's sort of every fan in the stadium trying to get on the pitch, then they're going to be outnumbered anyway, and you can't stop everyone. And in the ones I've seen, stewards don't really they can maybe prevent one or two, but people are going to get through anyway. So I guess putting fences in or something like that, but that kind of ruins the intimacy.
Okay. So do you think there should be stricter consequences on the clubs or the fans for the behaviour that's going on and the pitch invasion?
Again, I really don't think there should be sort of stricter consequences for fans who participate in pitch invasion. I do think it's a way of fans and players being able to celebrate together. It does depend on the situation. If it's done with intentions of stopping the game or just to disrupt the flow, things like that, then maybe there should be stricter consequences.
Here at Keep It in the Stands, we believe stopping pitch invasion is an achievable goal. But first, we need to educate you as fans of the dangers and consequences of actually pitch invasion. 50% of players within the PFA reported being affected by pitch invasions, either harassed or even attacked. Make sure to follow our social media accounts so you can get updates on what we're doing as a campaign to stop pitch invasions. Thank you so much for listening today. We hope you've learned a lot from this. And remember, keep it in the stands.